it the button?
Members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant reform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and thy good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. Amen. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service and honor shall be given to the deserving, a country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honorable members, before I proceed, let me acknowledge with great appreciation the patience and comportment of members. I'm grateful to you for having taken a long time in trying to sort out a few things before the commencement of business today. Please, I urge you to continue this way, and I'm sure the good Lord himself will be pleased with us. With this, I'll move on to the order paper. Item 2, formal communication I have received a communication from His Excellency the President addressed to me for the attention of the House. I read, 14th January 2021, sorry. Mr. Speaker, I hope this reaches you in good health and spirits. This is to congratulate you heartily on your ascension to the high office of the Speaker of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic. You have, for almost 3 decades, served all successive parliaments of the 4th Republic with distinction. And thus, your elevation to the Speakership of the House signifies a recognition of your invaluable role in the evolution of our Parliament. Mr. Speaker, while some of the events leading to your assumption of office as Speaker on 7th January were regrettable, I am confident that the House, as a collective, under your leadership, would move swiftly to overcome this initial mishap and partner with the executive to advance the progress and development of our country. For my part, I assure you and the House of my commitment to work with you to realize the aspirations of the Ghanaian people. Accept, Mr. Speaker, the assurances of my highest esteem. Yours sincerely, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. This is to the Right Honourable Speaker, Office of Parliament, Parliament House, Accra, and copied the Vice President, Jubilee House, and the Chief of Staff, Jubilee House, Accra. Honourable members, I have decided to make a formal communication to the House and through you to the good people of Ghana. As you all know, this is the first sitting of the first meeting of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana. Honourable members, I would like first and foremost to express my gratitude once again to all of you for your support in electing me as the Speaker of the 8th Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. In accordance with Article 95, Clauses 1 and 3 of the Constitution, and Orders 8 and 9 of the Standing Orders of the Parliament of Ghana. As I pledge to you and the nation on the occasion of my election as Speaker, I am fully committed to serving this House and this country faithfully and conscientiously as the Speaker for members of Parliament, indeed all Ghanaians. Let me give a special welcome to the fresh hands in the House. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate each and every one of you once again on being elected or re-elected as a member of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic. I am particularly delighted to welcome and reliably informed the 100 and 23 fresh hands who are assuming your seats as members of this House for the first time. You have now earned the privilege to be addressed in this chamber as honorable. And please, honorable you must be. Whatever may have been your inspiration for choosing to embark on this path, I would like you to know that the position you now occupy as a member of parliament is a position of leadership, of honor, of privilege, of trust, and above all, of service. You have reposed in you, as in the rest of your colleagues, an enormous amount of confidence and trust in electing you to represent them and their interests in this House of the people of Ghana. You have a reciprocal responsibility and obligation to serve them and the nation with honor and integrity. Remember at all times that you lead your people best by serving them with respect, with humility, and with diligence. My office, together with the Office of the Clerk of Parliament and the Parliamentary Service as a whole, stands ready to assist you with a range of services and resources, including training, necessary to make your transition into your new role as smooth as possible. I'm also confident that you will find among your returning colleagues many who are able and willing to help you navigate and learn the ropes here as quickly as you can, so that you can contribute effectively to the business of the House and make an impact within the shortest possible time. Ultimately, responsibility for having a successful career in this House rests with you. Remember that this House is a house of rules and procedures. Thus, knowledge and with time, mastery of the rules and procedures that govern the business and proceedings of the House will be indispensable to your success as a member, as well as make my job as all the more effective. May your career in this House be as long as productive as mine has been. A word to those of you who are going to become ministers. Honorable members, by the dictates of the Constitution of the Fourth Republic, some of you will in due course be nominated and with the approval of this House, appointed by the President to positions in his administration as ministers and deputy ministers of state. During my 20-year career as a member of Parliament, I had the opportunity to serve as a minister of state in different capacities. This so-called, quote, hybrid, unquote, feature of our constitutional system means, in effect, that a certain number of you will, at a given time, be under a duty to serve three masters: constituency, Parliament, and the President. Honorable members, you are all well aware of the biblical injunction to not serve two masters, lest you become, quote, devoted to one and despise the other, unquote. I know the pastors among you can give you where to find this statement. but for some of my colleagues who have never looked at the Holy Book, you can get it in Matthew 6:24. In your situation, it is even worse. You are in not two masters, but what? 3 masters. Needless to say, our experience has shown that in the case of members who double as ministers, the master that is often sacrificed and left holding the shorter end of the stick is Parliament. Members who are appointed to ministerial office generally prioritize their executive branch roles over their parliamentary roles. Scholars and students of governance have observed and noted the myriad ways in which this arrangement has served to unbalance the relationship between the executive and Parliament, and affected adversely the ability of Parliament and of members of Parliament to carry out faithfully their representative, financial, oversight, deliberative, and legislative roles. Until we reform this constitutional arrangement to improve the country's governance, however, I believe all parties, all players implicated in this arrangement, namely the President, Parliament itself, and those members appointed as ministers, have each a responsibility to take steps to minimize the negative impact of this arrangement on the business, mandate, and performance of the House. As a former member of this House, with a parliamentary career as long and as old as this Fourth Republic, one thing I do know for sure is that drawing a large number of ministers and deputy ministers of state from the membership of Parliament is unhelpful to the business of Parliament, and also weakens Parliament's ability to perform its proper role in the promotion of good governance. Be that as it may, members appointed to serve as ministers or deputy ministers must understand that you are members of Parliament first and foremost. In fact, in most or nearly all cases, you will have earned your appointment as Minister of State on account of your position or standing as a member of Parliament. It behoves on such members, therefore, to continue to take your parliamentary roles and responsibilities seriously. Indeed, the anecdotal evidence suggests that among members who double as ministers, those who strive to balance their responsibilities to both branches of government, as difficult as they may, tend to have more successful and longer careers on both sides. I now proceed to say a word of the expectation of the people on the 8th Parliament of the Fourth Republic. Honorable members, in the general elections of December 7, 2020, out of which this Parliament has emerged, the people of Ghana sent a loud and clear message to the political class when they voted to deny both the New Patriotic Party, NPP for short, and the National Democratic Congress, NDC, single party control of the legislative branch. The score of 137 for NPP and 137 for NDC, with one independent. The decision of no majority party and no minority party in Parliament is a call to chart a new path, to embark on new ways of transacting parliamentary business. What you know or ought to know is the business of the people. I urge the leadership of both sides of the House to put their heads together to smoothing out any bottlenecks or challenges that may impede the conduct of business in the House. I am ever ready to assist in this direction. The message which these results convey, I believe, may be summed up in the common expression, enough is enough. Or to put it differently, no more business as usual. And I repeat, no more business as usual. I believe that the people of Ghana, in voting as they did in the last elections, have signaled their frustration with and their disapproval of, quote, party first mindset and the associated unbridled partisanship and partisan polarization that have taken root in our politics and are giving our option of parliamentary democracy a bad name. I would like to believe also that the first indication that this message may have begun to sink is the very fact of my election as Speaker of Parliament. Despite not being the nominee or preference of those members whose party's flag bearer has been declared by the chair of the Electoral Commission as President-elect. I am sincerely grateful for the bipartisan approval of my speakership of this Parliament by you. And for now, all I can say is God richly bless you all. Honorable members, the people of Ghana would like us to prioritize the needs and concerns of the country and all Ghanaians above our own private or parochial interests or the narrow interests of one political party. The people of Ghana are growing tired of politics as usual, of seeing their elected and appointed officials treat their political parties and political party identities as if those were bigger and more important than our common citizenship, and as if those artificial identities were ends in themselves as opposed to a means to the ultimate end, namely the collective progress and development of the country. The people of Ghana are demanding sound and effective solutions to their everyday problems, needs, frustrations, anxieties, and fears. The youth in particular wants to be inspired, motivated, and given hope for a better future of unlimited opportunities. They want this country to grow and to prosper, to realize and live up to its full potential, to use its bountiful resources to deliver opportunity and generate prosperity and hope for its people. And they are entitled to ask for that. In case we are at a loss as to what this means for the substance of the work we must do here in this House, you and I would do well to refer to the directive principles of state policy contained in Chapter 6 of the Constitution. The directive principles of state policy stands as a constant reminder to us duty parliaments and members owe individually and collectively to our dear country and its people. In swearing fidelity, as we did on the occasion of our respective assumptions of office, what we undertook to do at a minimum is to use the public power, the privilege, and the associated opportunities and resources entrusted to us in ways and for purposes that will bring us closer as a nation to realizing the ambitions, goals, principles, and policies we have set ourselves in Chapter 6 of the Constitution. I entreat all of you, honorable members of this august body, to make the directive principles of state policy your primary guide to action in the discharge of the responsibilities and roles of your office. Together with the provisions of Chapter 5 of the Constitution, including notably the provisions on economic rights, educational rights, cultural rights, women's rights, children's rights, rights of disabled persons, and rights of the sick, contained in Articles 24 through to 30 of the Constitution. The directive principles of state policy are, in essence, our own domestic version of the Sustainable Development Goals, whose realization we have committed ourselves internationally. Those ambitions, goals, principles, and policies are the barometer by which we must measure our service and performance in this House. In addressing the issue of what the people of Ghana expect of this Parliament, I would be remiss if I did not express my deepest regret, both as a former member of this citizen of this great nation, at the rather unruly behavior and commotion that took place on the floor of this House last week, including the presence of armed soldiers on the floor, and the breaches of the sanctity of the vote that would otherwise attract severe punishment in connection with the election of the Speaker of the 8th Parliament. It was, to put it mildly, despicable conduct unbecoming of people of honor. What makes it worse is the total absence of justification or reasonable excuse. As Speaker, I would like to believe that the spectacle of that historic day would not be repeated. Certainly not on my watch. I take a strong exception to such conduct and behavior, and I urge leadership to take a serious view of it and take the necessary measures to restore the lost dignity of this august House. This is at variance with the message that the good people of Ghana gave us in the 2020 election. Now to our core mandate and mission as an arm of government. Honorable members, the outcome of the recent general election employ us to rededicate ourselves to the true and core mandate and mission of Parliament. There appears to be some amount of confusion and misunderstanding as to what the appropriate role of Parliament is in our constitutional system. Much of this is as a result of the two-party structure and composition of the House within the context of our winner-take-all politics. Because of this, Whenever Parliament is dominated by the same party that holds the presidency and forms the government, the common perception and expectation is that Parliament will automatically support the government's agenda without regard to its merits. In short, we have come to assume that government is entitled to have its way in Parliament. And because of this, there have been the Ghanaian public's perception of how Parliament has conducted itself under various administrations in the Fourth Republic. This current development of a House in which neither party has a secure or dominating majority, in other words, no majority party and no minority party, and of a Speaker who is not beholden to or endorsed by the President, is causing many of our citizens, both in and out of government, including in this House, a great deal of consternation. To them, if government is not guaranteed its way in the Parliament, then such a Parliament can only be obstructionist. Honorable members, this concern is needless, as it is based on an incorrect view of what this Parliament's role is, and indeed what its role has been in the House in the Fourth Republic. Regardless of which party has the upper hand in the House, it will be wrong to see Parliament's role as either obstructing or rubber stamping government's agenda. Parliament cannot discharge any of its core mandates: deliberative, legislative, financial control, oversight, and representational by being either obstructionist or a rubber stamp. As the foremost accountability institution in our constitutional system, Parliament's role is to check and balance the executive, not to obstruct or rubber stamp the executive's agenda. Parliament does its job as it must when it questions, investigates, reviews, and scrutinizes the executive, its bills, its nominations, and its proposed agreements, and then proceed to approve, to amend, or to reject them as the case may be. As one who comes to the speakership with the longest record of previous service as a member of this House, I can recount instances of Parliament playing precisely this role and thereby helping to improve the nation's governance. Even in the first Parliament, when the new Patriotic Party boycotted the 1992 parliamentary elections and left the House with no real opposition party, bills proposed by the executive were not accorded routine rubber stamp treatment. They were subjected to close review, scrutiny, and modification where necessary. A case in point is a bill that later became the law criminalizing causing financial loss to the state. Introduced in the first Parliament, the bill as drafted had no mens rea. The mens rea requirement was absent. It would have made causing financial loss to the state a strict liability offense. I recall, and the Hansard record will show, that the amendment to add the word willfully to the law came from the floor. With its almost total control of the House, the dominant party at that time could have simply rubber-stamped the bill, but it did not. I also recall that Parliament has, on one occasion in the past, declined to approve certain nominations of the President. A case in point was the refusal of the House to consider and to approve the nomination of a Court of Appeal judge to be appointed as Justice of the Supreme Court. As long as it is done in good faith and with transparent justification, such cases cannot be called rubber stamping or obstructionist. As Speaker, I will not yield to pressure from any quarter to allow this August House to be turned into a rubber stamp or an obstructor. With this, I move to the impartiality of the Speaker. Let me say a few words about the office of Speaker as envisioned under our Constitution. While past practice might lead some to think otherwise, the truth of the matter is that the Speaker is not a partisan political office. Regardless of which party nominated or voted to elect him or her, and regardless of his or her previous political background, the Speaker of Parliament of Ghana occupies a non-partisan, impartial office. There is no and nothing known as MPP Speaker or MDC Speaker. Since this is of interest to you, I repeat, there is no MPP Speaker or NDC Speaker. There is only a Speaker of the Parliament of Ghana and all Ghanaians. Unlike my counterparts in the American House of Representatives, the Ghanaian Speaker is not a member of the House. The Ghanaian Speaker presides over, but does not participate in proceedings of the House. And he or she has no vote. And he or she has no vote, not even a casting vote, in matters before the House. In fact, the speakership in Ghana is designed to be even more impartial and more apolitical than the Speaker of the House of Commons in Westminster. It is indeed to ensure that the Speaker remains impartial in presiding over the affairs of this House and Parliament. His election is done by secret vote. Honorable members, the independence and impartiality of the Speaker is particularly evident from one line in the Speaker's oath. That line is not found in the presidential oath, the oath of Vice President, the oath of Ministers of State and Cabinet, or the oath of a Member of Parliament. That line reads, and I quote, "And I will do right to all manner of persons in accordance with the Constitution and the laws and convention of Parliament, without fear or favor, affection or ill will," unquote. That last phrase, quote, "without fear or favor, affection or ill will," defines the office of Speaker as an impartial, non-partisan office. I assure you, I don't take this oath lightly at all. my destiny on this earth and the earth after is in my own hands. Honorable members, the only other oaths in the second schedule to the Constitution of the Fourth Republic in which you find this same language are the judicial oath and the oath of the Auditor General. This is because, like the Speaker, these offices too are meant to be non-partisan, impartial, and independent. Honorable members, much has been made of the fact that I come to this position from a long career as a politician and member of the National Democratic Congress, one of the two parties represented in this House. As far as I'm concerned, that fact is of no consequence to my new role as Speaker. In fact, it is not a novelty in this House. I myself have worked harmoniously with speakers of diverse political backgrounds, including on one occasion supporting the nomination for re-election as Speaker of the Fourth Republic, a well-known figure of the new patriotic party. In fact, I treated him like my father outside the business of the House. But more importantly, as I've made clear, the office I now occupy is an impartial, independent, and apolitical office, akin to that, in that regard, to the position of a justice or chief justice. Just as a person with a known party affiliation like myself could be appointed to the Supreme Court, so it is with the speakership. What matters above all is that once appointed as a chief justice or justice, or elected as a speaker, that person, regardless of his political past, must conduct himself or herself in accordance with the requirements and ethics of his or her new office, and as expressed in the oath of that office, without fear or favor, affection, or ill will. Honorable members, I intend to live by the oath I swore at the occasion of my election to this office, to respect and obey, respect and abide by the will of the House. I am fully committed to being fair and impartial, but I'm also fully committed to being firm and resolute. Members must also, in reciprocity, respect and abide by my rulings and instructions. When in disagreement, the standing orders of the House has the answer for you. I will apply the authority of the House as symbolized by the base, protect and defend your prerogatives, privileges, duties of members of Parliament and staff as provided under the laws of the country. Let me at this juncture acknowledge the many contributions made by my predecessors, in whose shoes I walk today. The Right Honorable Justice Daniel Francis Annan laid a solid foundation to anchor the growth and development of parliamentary law, practice, and procedure in the 4th Republican Parliament. I acknowledge with great appreciation and respect the contributions of Right Honorable Peter Alageti, Right Honorable Ebenezer Sechi Hughes, Right Honorable Justice Joyce Adeline Bamford Ado, Right Honorable Edward Kobla Do Ajahu, and Right Honorable Professor Aaron Mike Okoye. I have worked closely with all these speakers as a leader and a member of the Parliamentary Service Board. And I can attest to the tireless efforts each and every one of them made to consolidate, strengthen the institution of Parliament, and to build the capacity of members and staff of Parliament. I pledge to build on these achievements and to widen and deepen the frontiers of parliamentary governance even further, particularly so that we'll be opening our doors to the public, civil society, the media, and all who are interested in the health of the democracy in this country. Honorable members, some critical laws could not be passed by the previous Parliament, and these have gone into abeyance with the dissolution of the 7th Parliament of the 4th Republic. Draft legislations such as the Affirmative Action Bill, Sparsal Rights Bill, Standing Orders of the House, which has been pending before the House since 2002, the Budget Bill, International Business and Agreements Bill, calls for urgent action. I call on the responsible sponsoring government agencies or institutions to resubmit this bill to the House early for consideration. In particular, I call on Parliament to expeditiously deal with the review of the standing orders of the House. My vision, with open heart, is a vision of bipartisan, inclusive, participatory, responsive, efficient, and effective Parliament. The 8th Parliament will have to work to earn the respect of the people of Ghana and to restore the image and dignity of the institution. There is nothing more noble and satisfying than to render services to your people. I would like to end by echoing the words of President Akufo-Addo when he delivered his message on the State of the Nation on the dissolution of the 7th Parliament. The good people of Ghana have spoken and given Parliament almost equal strength on both sides of the House. We have no chance I repeat, the good people of Ghana have spoken and given Parliament almost equal strength on both sides of the House. We have no choice but to work with the consequences of the desires of the people. The House would have to be more accommodating of each other's views and probably devise new ways of conducting its affairs, unquote. I fully subscribe to that view. No more, no less. Cooperation, dialogue, accommodation, and consensus building must guide this parliament in the conduct of its business. We must work together for the betterment of Ghana and Ghanaians. That, I believe, is the demand of Ghanaians, the loud and clear message of the 2020 general elections. That is the message in the votes of 136 in favor of Right Honorable Aaron Michael Quayle, as to 138 for Honorable Abansman Akintoye, with one spot ballot, which propelled me to this high office of Speaker of the Parliament of Ghana. Honorable members, the battle is always the Lord's. Glory be to the Most High. I thank all of you for your patience and attention. God bless you. Honorable members, I will always be guided by the leaders from both sides of the aisle. And so I want to invite comments from the leaders. The Honorable Member for Tamal South, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, wants to have the first bite.
Right Honorable Speaker of the 8th Parliament, the Honorable Alban Sumana Bagbin. Maybe I should as well add Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin. I'm pleased and heartily want to congratulate you on the assumption of the high office of Speaker of Parliament of the 8th Parliament. I wish you well and I wish you every success. Now, Speaker, permit me to paraphrase one of your own words and three from President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, when in your submission you quoted from him, contributing to advance the progress of our. That should be our collective challenge as a people. How do we contribute to advance the progress of our country? How do you contribute as Speaker, and how do I contribute as Member of Parliament to advancing the progress of Ghana? Naturally, this will be contingent on ensuring peace, ensuring stability in our country, and working tirelessly to better the lot of the Ghanaian, to improve the quality of life of the Ghanaian. Mr. Speaker, you come to this office with enormous and perhaps unparalleled experience as a legislator and lawmaker of our republic. The passion with which you served the people of Nadole for those long years, only probably now equaled by the Honorable Osaiti Mensah Bonsu, if he completes the 10th, the 8th, the 8th term. I say if he completes the 10th. Mr. Speaker, So you come to it with enormous experience, and I trust that the Parliament of Ghana will be stronger, more transparent, and more accountable, and more importantly, more responsive to the needs and aspirations of the Ghanaian people. Now, Mr. Speaker, to quote you, you have a duty to lead this House to end that consternation you referred to. And you need the support of members of this House to do that. So, Mr. Speaker, once I congratulate you, I'll urge you and that collectively we have a duty to repair the reputation of this Parliament. To borrow another word, perhaps a duty to polish that which has tarnished in terms of how we conducted ourselves in processes leading to your election as Speaker. But what must be respected is that of the secrecy of the ballot, which is a requirement under the 1992 Constitution and also borrowed in our standing orders, must at all times be respected and upheld by all of us in the promotion of deeper democratic ethos and values. Mr. Speaker, you have also particularly referred to the nature and character of this Parliament. The Ghanaian people, in the outcome of 2020 presidential and parliamentary election, as far as Parliament is concerned, produced an inevitable outcome of no majority in Parliament, 137 MPP, 137 NDC. Understandably, I'm informed that the distinguished member for Fomina has decided to do business with the MPP. Doing business, in my view, does not represent joining a political party, and I say so. I say so within the context of Article 97 and guided by that authoritative statement, of course, on rules on interpretation when he says the expresso unius rule. Independent is independent and political party is political party. But Mr. Speaker, whilst congratulating you, the Honorable Osei Mensah in the 7th Parliament had it easy because he had comfort of numbers. This time he does not. And he cannot procure nor add to it other than a cooperation and support from the member from Fomina, nothing more. So, Mr. Speaker, what you must understand, this site, however we are referred to, you will need us going forward. I didn't even reference portions of the Constitution, but any of you can read Article 11, 268, 174. It requires 2/3 majority. You don't have that. You will need us. Going forward. But you must tolerate and respect us no matter what. Going forward, the Constitution, I can mention 10 more. Mr. Speaker, I conclude on that note. I have said this because I know my colleague is very experienced lawmaker, that this Parliament, cooperation and consensus is compelling and an imperative. Did you want the obvious? Mr. Speaker, on matters relating to whoever invited the military to the chamber onto the floor, going forward, we will demand an inquiry to it in order that it never ever happens as you have assured. Because it's only democracies that have parliaments, and we have a duty jealously to protect our democracy and to grow our democracy. Parliament remains a forum, as I have repeatedly said, where right and wrong is debated. Mr. Speaker, the Ghanaian people voted in December that when we debate right and wrong, let right prevail and not partisanship. And that they want to see an end to the divisiveness in our country. They want to see an end to the polarization in our country. They want to see an end to the excessive partisanship of our country. And that we hold strong together our democratic values and ethos. Mr. Speaker, I can only wish you well, wish you every success, trust that you will moderate debate, impartial and neutral as you indicated, rule on matters of procedure. But Mr. Speaker, I cannot conclude without saying that this House, and probably I'm sure my colleague will touch it, we will have to take a rapid action on our rules of procedure and standing orders. I must admit that we are almost at the concluding stages of adopting new standing orders to ourselves. Thanks to the Honorable Osechi Mensah and Professor Okwe as Speaker of Parliament, I recall the last meeting chaired by First Deputy Speaker of Parliament. But Mr. Speaker, to assure my colleague, we disagreed only on matter of procedure, whilst it was his argument that we could adopt it merely by resolution. I reminded him, and Mr. Speaker, I'm compelled to quote Article 11(7) of the 1992 Constitution, that it was my view, and Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, I quote, and I'll be ending just on that note. Mr. Speaker, Article 11 is on the hierarchy of the laws, and 11(7) reads, any order, rule, or regulation made by a person or authority under a power conferred by the Constitution or any other law shall be laid before Parliament, be published in the Gazette. More importantly, satisfy the mandatory 21 days. So it was a matter of procedure, and to assure him that I have no objection, neither do colleagues on my side have any objection to us adopting improved new standing orders for this House. So we should pursue it with rapid action. What the disagreement was the procedure for its adoption, whether it should go through the requirement in Article 11(7) or by resolution. So, Mr. Speaker, once again, I want to congratulate you. I have faith in you. I have known and worked with you, and I trust that at the end of January 2025, if God gives you good health and long life, and you serve this country with wisdom and experience, Parliament and good governance architecture would only be the beneficiary of your enormous and parallel experience. But you owe it, Mr. Speaker, to the President and the people of Ghana to work to advance the progress of Ghana. Once again, congratulations.
May we now listen to the Honorable Member for Swane, the Honorable Osechi Mensah Bonsu.
Right Honorable Speaker, on the occasion of your coronation as the Speaker of the 8th Parliament, I rise on behalf of the Majority Caucus, soon to be the Speaker, soon to be declared
Honorable Member, order.
And I want to express Our congratulations.
Honorable members, let me repeat. Let me repeat. The ability to catch the eye of the speaker includes good behavior. And so I'm taking note of the happenings in the House. We will soon, the House will soon be broadcast live, and your families, your kings, your children will all be observing you on the floor, and then we will see whether you continue not to exhibit parliamentary behavior. So, honorable members, let's listen to the honorable member for Swami in silence.
The Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, as I indicated, on occasion of your coronation as the Speaker of the 8th Parliament, I rise on behalf of the caucus that is soon to be declared as the majority caucus. Yeah. And on my own part, to express our congratulations to you. Right Honorable Speaker, for 28 continuous years of your adult life, you have rendered service as a member of Parliament to this country. You hold a record that is going to be extremely difficult to break. 28 years, continuous years of good service to this country. Mr. Speaker, I know that some began with you got their stay in this house truncated. They have recycled themselves. Mr. Speaker, I don't know. I do not know whether you have the good fortune to match your record, much more to break that record. Mr. Speaker, you are not one of the members of Parliament through Parliament for all these years. You have positively impacted the development of parliamentary democracy since entering Parliament. From your days as chairman of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, through your position as the majority leader for a total of 4 years, Minister of State for 2 ministries, and second Deputy Speaker in the 7th Parliament. And now, by the mighty hand of divine providence, to experience a second transmogrification in your life. Speaker,
I am still a human being.
It is most unfortunate, as you yourself related to, that the processes leading to your ascension to the high office of the 3rd citizen of this country were characterized by unfortunate, regrettable, and indeed reprehensible incidents. This House must work together to ensure that these unfortunate events do not recur in any form or shape, and these events, Speaker, and conduct should not be accorded space for any further procreation. It is my considered opinion, Mr. Speaker, that this House must move swiftly to resolve to overcome this initial misstep and focus on partnering government to develop the country in unity and tranquility, and indeed secure for ourselves and posterity lessons of liberty, equality of opportunity, and prosperity as contained in the preamble of the 1992 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the closeness of the numbers of the caucuses imposes an obligation to deepen consultation in our pursuit of good democratic governance that is foundationed on probity and accountability. Speaker, on behalf of the caucus that I lead, I assure you, Mr. Speaker, of our commitment in honesty and sincerity to work diligently with you to realize the policy objectives contained in the directive principles of state policy, in particular, the realization of basic human rights, a healthy economy, the right to work, the right to good health care, and the right to education. The Ghanaian people deserve nothing less. Let me also congratulate your two deputy speakers on their election as your first and second deputies. I believe that together this Parliament can and indeed must development agenda. I also would have the opportunity to congratulate all honourable members and new entrants who on 7th of January were sworn in as members of the 8th Parliament. I believe the members would apply themselves to the duties and functions of members of Parliament, including, in particular, as the Speaker, you have once again related to the duties of representation, deliberation, information dissemination, legislation, power of the purse function, oversight, conflict resolution, ratification of treaties, protocols, and conventions. The Speaker, I believe members will come to appreciate that members of Parliament are not agents of development. Accordingly, many of the members of Parliament herein assembled may have to go back and edit the message on their billboards and commit themselves to the functions of Parliament and parliamentarians, the Speaker, which does not include development, that is, acting as agents of development. Mr. Speaker, this is your in the House, and in the spirit of cooperation and collaboration, it will be inappropriate to attempt to litigate even portions of the statement that we made, in particular relating to the figures that you quoted as having supported your election. The Speaker, with respect to the Chair, I may disagree with that. However, as I said, in the spirit of providing ourselves a new beginning, I wouldn't want to further comment on that, even though I disagree with the figures that you have quoted. Mr. Speaker, in the 7th Parliament, even in the hugeness of numbers that we had, that's 169 as opposed to 106, the then majority on any typical day needed the cooperation and indeed the collaboration of the minority, especially the leadership of the minority. And Mr. Speaker, we did just that. Mr. Speaker, in the history of this Parliament, I'm not aware of any leader in this House who has reached out to the other side as I have done. My colleague, the Honorable Cletus Abuka is here. Mr. Speaker, you yourself, you are here. And you testify that in the history of this Parliament, you right, will know the consultation. My colleague, the minority leader, the former minority leader, the Honorable Haruna Idrissa, the Honorable Haruna Idrissa would attest to that fact. And that is notwithstanding whatever people say outside. The Speaker, the caucus that I lead, and indeed the leader for the member for Fomena is not oblivious of the constitutional provision relating to his doing business with the MPP caucus. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, he was very careful in his choice of words. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't amount to crossing carpet, what he has done. But doing business with the MPP caucus understandably gave the MPP caucus one more additional seat in the conduct of business in this House.
And therefore,
Mr. Speaker, and therefore we would, without any equivocation, constitute the majority caucus in this House. Mr. Speaker, I agree with the minority leader on this issue about the approval of the new standing orders. Mr. Speaker, I was clear in my mind what we ought to do. And indeed, all the processes that we have adopted in approving standing orders in this 23 never came to be subjected to Article 11, sub 7 of the Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, it was for a good reason. It was for a good reason. It's the reason why all the standing orders were approved by motion in plenary. Mr. Speaker, if we have to go that route and apply ourselves to that vehicle, we may have problems. And the reason is this. That route quoted by my colleague would suggest to us that there must be a parent act from which would ensue regulations, instruments, and orders. The Speaker, that parent act of 1965 has no provision for the introduction of standing orders. It would mean that if you have to go that route, Mr. Speaker, we may have to go and amend that parent act. And I thought that if we applied ourselves to the process that we had done, that would even shorten the route for us. Mr. Speaker, I believe if we apply ourselves to that route, within 2 weeks maximum, we should be able to adopt these new standing orders. And if members insist that we should go that route of Article 11.7, the Speaker will run into turbulence. And that is why I advised that we need really to apply ourselves to a motion so that we circumvent the process as has always been done, and then we move forward to adopt the new standing orders, which in my view, the Speaker, would reposition Parliament in the conduct of business in this House. I have no inhibitions as to the direction to go in this regard. Mr. Speaker, once again, this is the time to congratulate you. And once again, I congratulate you, your deputies, on your elevation, and as well wish all members, because we are all beginning a new term, a good and healthy stay in this Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I thank you most enormously for this space accorded me. Once again, I thank you very much.
Honorable members, I received a letter from one of your colleagues, the Honorable Andrew Esiema Amwako, the Member of Parliament for Fomena constituency. The member the member that is holding the balance in this house. I have the letter in my hands and I'll proceed to read the contents to all of you. The letter emanates from his office and is dated 13th January 2021. The Right Honourable Speaker, Office of Parliament, Osu, Accra. Dear Sir, declaration to do business with the MPP caucus. I, Andrew Esiama Amwako, an independent member of Parliament for Fomina constituency, and now the second deputy speaker for the A Parliament, do hereby declare that I shall, for purposes of transacting business in the House, associate with the MPP caucus in the same Parliament. For the avoidance of doubt, I do hereby affirm that I shall cooperate and collaborate with the MPP caucus in the 8th Parliament. Dated this 13th day of January, dated this 13th day of January 2021. Yours faithfully, signed, Honorable Andrew Esiama Amwako, MP constituency, and copy to the leader of the MPP caucus. Honorable members, with this official declaration to the House will accord him the space to do as he has stated. Whatever he said outside was of no effect so far as the business of the House is concerned. And therefore, he had to do it officially for it to be read and captured in the Hansard. And so what we have now, you have the New Patriotic Party wing or caucus in Parliament, together with the independent member of Parliament from Fomina, and they now constitute the majority group.
You are desperate indeed. You are desperate for a win indeed. Is that all? You are desperate indeed. If the desperation do you so, every win is a win.
You are just majority group, not caucus group. Majority group. Premature ejaculation.
Honorable members, shouts of this nature will not be tolerated. When you speak in this house, you are speaking to the speaker. You are addressing the speaker. You want to speak to your colleague member of parliament. You whisper so that others not close to you don't hear what you are saying. You are permitted to signal each other and move to the corridors of the house to have your private conversations. But on the floor of the house, it is not permitted to shout, particularly when you use unparliamentary words. Please, I will not repeat what I stated this morning, but let's conduct ourselves with decency, decorum, and dignity. You are not called honorable for nothing. I will by all means give you all the latitude to debate. That I will not constrain. But I will not the use of words which are unbecoming of the dignity of this house. It's not me using the term, it is in the Constitution. And so please, there are early days yet. And so sometimes we may let this pass. But please, discontinue that. I see the honorable member, Honorable Amakufibwa, itching to say a word. Are we out of? Yes, honorable member. Honorable member.
Mr. Speaker, I have nothing to say. Thank you.
Honorable members, we now move to item 3 on the order paper. Correction of votes and proceedings and official reports. We start with correction of votes and proceedings. And we're looking at the votes and proceedings of Thursday, 7th January 2021. Page 1. Page 2. Yes, honorable member.
Mr. Speaker, page 2. Number 38.
Honorable members, I want to plead with you, since this is the first time when you are able to catch my eye, kindly mention your name and your constituency. I think that's beginning for us to start knowing each other. Yes, honorable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Ajay Kwesi, Member of Parliament for New Jabino. But the Ajay is spelled wrongly. My Ajay is A-D-J-E-I. I drew the table officer's attention to it the last time.
Table office to take note. Page 3. Page 3. Yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker. Number 79. The name has appeared as Siama to be the surname instead of Amuakun. I pray that is addressed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You said the name Asiama is not the same name. The same name is what?
The surname is Amuakun, but it appeared as a Siama, and I want it to be corrected.
Table office to take note. Page 4.
No, page 3.
Yes.
Honorable Speaker.
Sorry. Yes. Page 3.
Page 3, number 196. My surname is Aiku, not Nati. And Nati is wrongly spelled. It should be N-A-R-T-H.
Table office to take note.
Thank you.
Page 4. Now, members, I have so many of you on your feet. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, my surname is Bandim, number 93. Number 93, Bandim, not Azuma.
Honorable member.
Page 393.
93.
Yes, please.
Yes.
So it should be Bandim. The surname should be Bandim and not Azuma.
Table office take note of the correction. Yes. Mike, please. Mike. Honorable member, yes.
Number 38. My surname, Frimpong, F-R-E-M, is not F-R-I.
Honorable member, you said number 38.
138.
138.
Yes, sir. Page 4.
Yes.
Frimpong, F-R-E-M-P-O-N-G, and not F-R-I-M-P-O-N-G.
Wrongly spelled.
Yes, sir.
Table office to take note. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Honorable Stephen Jalula. Item number 159. My name is wrongly spelled as Jawula. The right spelling is J-A-L-U-L-A-H. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Table office, please note the correction. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, my name is Zuwaira Mohammed Ibrahima. My surname is Ibrahima.
Go down to a number.
Number 191. 191.
Table office to take note of the correction.
And Mohammed is wrongly spelled.
Yes.
It's Mohammed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That is in respect of number 191. Yes, the honorable member for Efutu, Honorable Afenyo Maki.
Mr. Speaker, it is my humble prayer you consider directing that members, especially the new members who are in possession of the votes and proceedings, do effect the necessary corrections and same handed over to the table office for the appropriate steps to be taken for Hansa because of time constraint. Mr. Speaker, this is a decision. This is from leadership.
Honorable members. Honorable members, having regard to the state of business of the House, I direct that sittings be held outside the prescribed period. Honorable member for Efutu, I am simply encouraging, particularly the new ones, to develop the courage to stand on their feet and to address the chair. So we will soon finish. Let them take advantage and start learning the ropes. Yes. Honorable member.
Mr. Speaker, respectfully, page 5169. My name, Kuma John Ampontia. There's N in the Ampontia.
Table office, please take note.
169.
Yes, 169. Any more? Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to take us back to page 2. My name is spelled a free farm Mensa. The Mensa doesn't have H, number 29. Number 29. Thank you.
Honorable members, I don't want to close the heavens gate, but I encourage you not to take us backwards.
Okay.
In situations such as yours, you just approach the table office quietly and get that done. So don't take us backwards. Page 5. Yes, please.
Please, Mr. Speaker, number 163. The title doctor is missing. The name is correct. Title is missing. Thank you.
Table office is not easy to acquire that title. Please give it to him. Page 6. Yes, honorable member.
Honorable Speaker, respectfully, number 240. The surname is S-A-N-I, not double N. It's only one N.
Table office, kindly take note.
And then the Abam is not Abam, it's Abam. It ends with M, not N. Then there's omitted a name, Kobina, John Kobina Abam Abua Sani. The Kobina was omitted, Speaker. Thank you.
Table office, kindly take note. Yes, honorable member.
Sir.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, sir.
my surname is Mahama 247, not Seni. Page 6. Number 247. Mahama is my surname, not Seni. The Boya Makaro constituency.
Table office, kindly take note. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, page 2, number 50. My surname is Tete, not Akwete.
I remember, what did you say?
My surname is Tete, not.
Where is that? Which number?
Number 50.
Number
50. Page 2, number 50.
Honorable member,
I was not having this one, that's why.
the gate has been shut. And so approach the table office later to get that correction done. Page 7. Yes, yes.
Mr. Speaker, page 6, 214. My name is Ofosu Ejare, and my Ejare is spelled Adjare. Thank you for the opportunity.
Kindly take note. Yes.
Right, there are a lot of. There's somebody else.
It's on now.
All right.
Right, Honorable Speaker.
On page 6, number 210. The name is correct, the names are correct, but the title, doctor, is missing, please.
You didn't say that.
Page 6, 210. The doctor is missing, which is Nyako Kwamana Mita. The doctor is missing, please. Here's the title. 210, Cape Coast North Constituency.
Table office, kindly take note. Yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker. Number 209. My surname had wrongly spelled. Number 209. My surname had wrongly spelled. There's no I. It is Nyakotui.
Table office, kindly note. Yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker, on page 7, your good self unfortunately have your name spelled wrongly. 5, instead of Kingsford, we have Kingford. And so, Mr. Speaker, I know how you appreciate your name being spelled correctly. So I appeal to the table office to take note. Under point 5, that Honorable Alban Sumana Kingford.
You are already at page 7.
That's page 7. You call page 7,
Yes.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Some of your colleagues took us back to page 6. But you are right. Table office, you cannot afford to miss the spelling of the speaker's name. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much. Number 219, Opoku Isaac Yao, the title doctor, is also missing.
Table office, please. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My surname is Abdurazak Taido, and the Taido is spelled TAHIDU. Number 258. 258 is titled TAHIDU.
Table office, kindly take note. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is B. Anwatas Mazire, Laura constituency. Mr. Speaker, the last name, so you don't need a number. The last name is number 275. The Anwatasmo is one name, and so it has been spelled as if there are two names. They have Anwa and then Tasmo. So the capital T is small t, and it will be brought back to join the Anwa to make one Anwatasmo. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Table office, take note. Page 8. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, with reference to page 7 still, the item 5 and 6 of page 7, dealing with the motion and the follow-ups. My intervention is with reference to 7.6, item number 6 at page 7, up to page 8, before motion number 7. Mr. Speaker,
yes, Honorable.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, my intervention is that after your good self was nominated by the Honorable Member for Tamale South, the Honorable Member for Sawase seconded the motion. But before he finished seconding the motion, there was an intervention by the Honorable Member for Efutu. Mr. Speaker, after moving the intervention and making the arguments, there was an opposition to the intervention. He raised a preliminary objection, and I remember about 4 or 5 people gallantly opposed the intervention. That's the preliminary objection that he was raising. And they raised some legal arguments. The intervention was to the effect that there was an injunction against the Asin North Member of Parliament, and therefore he should not be part of the day's proceedings. But the opposition was that there were 2 legal arguments. One was that, as at that time, he had not yet been sworn in as a Member of Parliament, and therefore was not within, he didn't come under the ambit of the Clerk of Parliament, and therefore he could not have served him. The second one was that, having regard to Order 8, the Standing Order Rule 8, once a motion had been moved, it had to be seconded without any debate and the rest of them. These interventions were made, but if we read it, it will look like a submission, the intervention. Nobody said anything. On record, nothing happened. There was no opposition from anybody. There was no intervention by anybody. And that is not the accurate record of the proceedings of that day. That is why I'm inviting you to request the clerks at table to be able to insert the fact that there was an opposition to the preliminary objection, and which is conspicuously absent in the vote of proceedings. And therefore, this is not a proper record of the proceedings of that day in relation to that event. Official report.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps I may seek your guidance. My understanding is that the concerns as so expressed by my respected senior colleague will be fully captured in the official report, the answer. Yeah, that's why we may need Mr. Speaker's guidance on this matter. But I hold the view that the matters you raise will definitely be captured in Hansard. So you have no fears at all.
Mr. Speaker, this is a summary of the proceedings of that day. So we just needed, just like how they captured his intervention. He moved the motion and stated his case. Then there were, you made preliminary objection. You raised a preliminary objection on that day. Not inquiry, objection to his nomination, to the member being, swearing in, being sworn in and then participating.
It's okay, it's okay.
You know, so Mr. Speaker, I'm saying that they should have just indicated that when the preliminary objection was raised, there was opposition to it. People raised objection to it, not the details, but the summary. Sorry.
Well, I will leave this to the table office. I wasn't present, so I cannot attest to what took place. Kindly look at the issue and do the right thing. Yes, I can see. Is that Honorable Dafiamapo?
Mr. Speaker, that is so. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, if I may refer the House to page 8, paragraph 3, something is captured and labeled as writ of injunction. I believe that that's not the proper nomenclature. It has to be an order of injunction, and I expect the table office to specify whether it's a provisional order which will be interlocutory or interim, or it's a permanent injunctive order. So the table office has to clarify. It cannot be a writ of an injunction, and that is one. 2, we further refer the House to item number 9 on the same page, page 8. Again, the table office is employing an euphemism. That's an unfortunate incident. Mr. Speaker, this is a House of Records. The duty of is to capture events verbatim. And so I expect to see, if there is an unfortunate incident, at least there should be a brief description of that. I'm not saying it should be captured as it will be in the Hansard. So for the records, if somebody picks this information, wouldn't know what an unfortunate incident is. There should be a brief 1, 2, or 3 word description of what took place. In my humble opinion.
I agree.
In my humble opinion. So if it was an unlawful interference in the ballot counting, that should be specifically stated. By so and so and so. That should be stated.
Yeah.
That's my humble submission in the matter.
I agree.
Speaker here.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, in furtherance of the last point made by the Honorable Dafiamapo, I want to suggest that the table office captures the incident referred to in paragraph 9 in this manner. Following the snatching of ballot papers by the Member of Parliament for Tema West, Carlos Ahinkra, the Clerk to Parliament, in consultation with leadership, declared Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin as the Speaker-elect. I so move. Thank you, sir.
It's quite difficult for me, but let me listen to the former Minister for Communications.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in my recollection of the events of that day, I'm referring to page 8, paragraph 9. These were the exact words that the clerk used in the declaration that he made on the day. And so it is captured in the votes and proceedings exactly as the clerk said it. And so I don't think there's any mistake as to the record that has been presented before us today. Mr. Speaker, on the same page, paragraph 4, my recollection is that the clerk initially made an order that the member-elect in question could not take part in the proceedings of the day, and subsequently came back after a long delay and amended the order that he made initially. So the rendition in the votes and proceedings isn't exactly an accurate reflection of what happened on the day. But I believe the official record will capture the events of the day, and so that can be left as it is. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, as I stated earlier on, I wasn't here. But these issues you are raising are legal issues. There's not law. I will plead with the clerk and the table office to capture exactly what took place that day. Page 9. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, how the Honorable Member for Swami spells his name. On page 9, on motion numbered 15, the name has suddenly transmogrified, to use his own word, into a wholly Aphenic name. So the Speaker is here. I'm sure this is not his name. Every single piece of the name is Aphenic, and I think it's wrongly spelled, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Surely that is true. Table office, please correct the spelling of his name and how it is arranged. Page 10. Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I draw attention to an error contained on page 10, paragraph 22, an error relating to the name of the Chief Justice. The correct name of the Chief Justice is Kwesi Enin Yeboah, what I hyphenated Enin Yeboah. And it is important that the name of a notable public of such stature be correctly captured in our records. And therefore, I respectfully request the table office to effect the necessary correction. Thank you.
Yes, table office, kindly take note. Page 11. Page 12. Yes, Honorable Member for Odododo.
Right Honorable Speaker, page 12, number 15, I believe I heard you correctly when that day you mentioned Adia Ramatu Baumia. I'm seeing Adia Samira Baumia here, and I want to know whether you are correctly captured or there is a mistake.
Yes, honorable member.
Most grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, item numbered XVI. On the 7th of January, he became the former chairman of the Council of State. So former should be inserted in accordance to Article 89(5) of the Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, the proper rendition should be Nana Otuo Siribwo II. The Siribwo has been captured wrongly, and the second is not captured. On the 7th, he became the former the Council of State. And the item numbered XXI, Mr. Speaker, His Excellency Rui Alberto D. Alberto D. should be inserted, the Deputy Prime Minister of Cape Verde. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Naval Office, take note. Page 13. Yes, honorable member.
Most grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, on page 13, item numbered Roman numeral XXVII. The Honourable Jean-Yves Le Drian. He is the Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs. Europe has been omitted. And the next one immediately following that, Mr. V. Muralidharan. It should be properly captured. The name has been captured wrongly, and has been wrongly spelled. And Mr. Speaker, he is the Minister of State for External Affairs, and not Foreign Affairs, the External Affairs of India. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Table Office, please take note. Page. Yes, honorable member.
The Speaker, back to page 11. Roman number VIII. Its Excellency George Mena Oponwea. I wanted to know if that Opon is not part of his name, the Liberian president. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I saw Mena Wea, George Mena Wea, but I know that he's also known as George Oponwea. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, we will cross-check from the document that was given to us. Table Office, please kindly follow up on this issue. Page 14.
Right Honourable Speaker, on page 14, the first item, Ambassador J. Peter Pham, is without an R. It's PHAM without an R. If it can be corrected accordingly, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the Moroccan ambassador to Ghana, Her Excellency Ms. Iman Wadil, it should be an O and not a Q. Yeah. It's an O and not a Q. And Zambia has a high commissioner and not an ambassador. It's a Commonwealth country, can be corrected accordingly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of the first sitting of the first meeting of the first session held on Thursday, 7th January 2020 be adopted as the true record of that day. We have we don't have copies of the official report. I'm informed that it's not yet ready. So we will move to item 4, statements. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I just want clarity on a particular subject because our colleagues were responding to you when you said majority group. They immediately bounce into dancing pursuant to our standing orders and per the records available to you. I'm aware that officially MPP 137, NDC 137, a tie or a gridlock. When you say majority group, what do you mean?
Honorable members, coming from the high office, the personality of the leader of the NDC wing in Parliament, sometimes referred to as caucus instead of wing, I will try to clarify what I stated. The word group means more than one. And before I use that phrase, I did state that no party had over the other in terms of numbers. But since the independent member decided to do business, in fact said to associate in the conduct of business on the floor of this house with the MPP wing or caucus in Parliament, they too put together the majority parliamentary group. Having stated that the MPP has a majority in Parliament, I haven't said that. I am taking the trouble honorable members, please, time will tell, so hold your guns. You are aware that the good people of Ghana having finally decided on some of you. But so far as you've been sworn in, you are honorable members of Parliament. And so let's give ourselves a few more months. We will see who will be forming majority, minority, or whatever. But the essence of those terms carry some meaning in some jurisdictions. In Ghana, it's only on numbers. Whether you sit at the left or the right is of no consequence so far as the Parliament of Ghana is concerned. We are not running the parliamentary system of governance. What we have here is a horseshoe arrangement. And clearly, when you go through the symbols, particularly the maize, and the traditional meanings of the symbols there, you understand that the good people of Ghana are not interested in this kind of partisanship. They're working together for the interests of the people. You don't get any additional benefit from being on majority or minority, except a few pecks. That definitely you know. So let's go on. The good people of Ghana will tell us who will have the numbers more than the other. I'm taking my time to explain this because this is of extreme public interest. I have admitted one statement, and that statement stands in the name of the Honorable Member for Joaboso, Honorable Kobina Minta Akando. It's a statement on COVID-19. Please, honorable members, it's so important. I want us to take some time on this statement, even though we will try to regulate the debate. Honorable member, you may now present your statement.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful for the opportunity to make this statement and also congratulate you on your election as the Right Honorable Speaker for the 8th Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 situation in Ghana has returned to the forefront of public attention due to the recent surge in new infections and hospitalization in the wake of the political and holiday seasons. As of January 11, 2021, Ghana had recorded or confirmed 56,981 cases, some 1,404 active infections. As many as 44 of these are in severe or critical condition. Mr. Speaker, it must be noted, however, that this figure represents the tip of attractive iceberg, thanks to the work of the dedicated scientists at the West Africa Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens. We now know from the recent seroprevalence study that at least 1.2 million Ghanaians have previously been infected. Mr. Speaker, risky behaviors have been on the rise for the last few months, during which time compliance with preventive guidelines like mask wearing and physical distancing has plummeted to dangerous lows. Mr. Speaker, the overall picture at this moment is of a nation operating on the false security of case numbers that are more reflective of the inadequacy of testing than of the true situation on the ground. This is killing risk perception among the public, a large proportion of which does not believe the virus is real, that it exists in Ghana, or that it has killed their fellow citizens. Mr. Speaker, testing data published by the Disease Surveillance Department of Ghana Health Service indicates that Ghana's COVID-19 positivity rate is currently over 10%. That is more than twice the 5% level that the WHO recommends as a benchmark for European society, including academic institutions. Additionally, the surge in infections and in apparent severity, with Ghana Health Service reporting a record number of severe and critical cases on January, is cause for concern about the risk of new or imported strains transmitting undetected. Mr. Speaker, this state of affairs reflects the continuing failures with risk communication, public engagement, and pandemic management. And it's at this time when infections are rising, the health systems overwhelmed, and public compliance is at its very lowest, schools are being reopened. Mr. Speaker, While I acknowledge the efforts made by Ghana Education Service, Ghana Health Service, and their respective ministries, early signs from tertiary institutions suggest that a great deal must be done to reduce the risk of transmission on campuses. Very little has been done practically to facilitate physical distancing in residential facilities. Mask wearing has been inadequate, and the risk perception among students also appears low. Regular screening of students for COVID-19 would be a major tool for infection control. Mr. Speaker, regular screening of students for COVID-19 would be a major tool for infection control by allowing early detection of clusters across campuses. Unfortunately, Ghana continues to underutilize other cheaper and faster diagnostic options like antigen tests, the availability of which is bottlenecked by the approval process of the Food and Drugs Administration. Mr. Speaker, it is worth noting that AFIA's COVID-19 antigen system, the FDA approved for use at Kotika International Airport, has no exceptional or speed when compared to other immunofluorescent antigen tests. One example is the standard Q COVID-19 antigen test, which is in use at airports across India. Despite outperforming Ghana's option on sensitivity, these tests are priced $7 as compared to Ghana's $150 charge. Mr. Speaker, the approval of alternatives like this would expand our diagnostic toolkit and lower the barrier to affordable rapid testing, and it would make routine screening in communities and schools far more feasible, practical, and sustainable. Mr. Speaker, I urge the relevant authorities and agencies to be guided by the best available science at this crucial point in Ghana COVID-19 pandemic, and to be open and responsive to constructive criticisms on those grounds. There's little room for error at this time, and everything must be done to prevent the reopening of schools from becoming the opportunity this deadly virus has been waiting for. The time is now for transparency and candor. We will not succeed against this virus without that. Mr. Speaker, let us all religiously observe the COVID-19 protocols. I thank you for the opportunity.
Honourable members, it's a very important matter. I will recognize, I think, 4 make comments. Let us listen to the veteran medical professor, Honorable Dr. Afriye. Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. And let me also congratulate you for the elevation to this high office. Mr. Speaker, I'm indeed very proud of you. But Mr. Speaker, it is not for nothing that COVID has found its way to the league table, as it were, as the first topic to be raised on this floor in this new year. I think it's just as well. But be it as it may, I believe that the maker of the speaker, and I wish to congratulate him for bringing it to the fore, that there are certain issues that he has raised that I must correct before even I make my substantive comments. First of all, prevalence rate, the weighted prevalent rate is 8.1%, not over 10%. If you're talking about routine surveillance, then it is over 10. But then we have routine surveillance, you break them, and then even the surveillance that done at the airport, which is about 0.7%. So when you put them together, the correct prevalent rate for COVID in Ghana
is 8.1%. Number two, I believe that we are talking about a surge. When you look at the figures, I probably have compared to other countries, yes, there has been a blip, but we are not there yet to call it a surge. In fact, in the Ghanaian situation, we never really got to the apex of the curve. The curve was flattened prematurely by the interventions made by the president and the compliance by the good people of Ghana. So we never really experienced a very, very big upset in the COVID situation in Ghana, except to say that the potential for an upset has always been there, and I'm not downplaying it. It is a virus which is transmitted through the respiratory passages, and any letting off the guard can lead to catastrophic consequences. Mr. Speaker, I believe that with regard to the reopening of schools, and I must make a declaration that I'm a member of the COVID task force, everything has been put in place to ensure the safety of our children in schools. Indeed, we had the opportunity, so to speak, an operational research of some sort was forced on us when some schools were opened to write their exams. Even though initially there was outbreak, one or two in some schools, in the end, it turned out that the schools were safer places than even in their homes. So we believe that we are living in a world where we are populated with risk. And by when all the risk analysis, we believe that the time is ripe to reopen schools, especially when we do not even have an idea when this pandemic is going to end. The COVID is evolving, and so I agree with the maker of the speaker that we should not let down the statement. The maker of the statement, I stand corrected. We should not let down our guards, and Ghanaians as a whole should be compliant. I agree with him that we've let down our guards, especially in the countryside. And as I speak to you now, I come from Seyoso, MP for Seyoso in the Western North. There has been outbreaks there now. My ears are the ground, and even Seyoso, Bibiani, and some other places. So even people in rural settings are not spared. So it behoves on all of us to get our out together, help the president, who I call the public health president, because he has taken a very keen interest. And I believe that Ghana has been one of the countries who has gotten their act together, and even in spite of the recent setbacks, we are still not in the danger zone yet. We believe that we can roll this small blip that has come back. And indeed, over the past 4 or 5 days, the figures are actually not going up. I believe that with everything with all the measures that we are up to, we believe that we can rein it back. But we must all pray that we get the money to do, the vaccines are on the horizon. And we should get out together as a parliament, help the government so that we can get the vaccines to vaccinate our people. And again, but before then, before vaccines come, social distancing, masking, hand washing still remain at the core of the effort to fight the COVID. And with those remarks, I believe that I want to thank the maker of the statement for bringing this once again to the fore of affairs in this new year. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Pusiga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to comment on the statement ably made by my colleague on COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, before I continue, I wish to congratulate you for your ascension to this noble and high office. May the Almighty Allah grant you that wisdom to undertake your work. Mr. Speaker, reference paragraph 1 of the maker of the statement, paragraph 2 of the maker of the statement tells us the numbers as at January 11. And I am always very happy to be reading numbers instead of percentages. The figures are always better than the percentages because the layman out there hears or listens to the percentages and doesn't see the enormity of the problem at hand. So when we use figures, people tend to really understand it better and believe that we have a problem that is surging very fast. Mr. Speaker, to have a figure of 56,981 cases and going further to say 1,404 active infections. So many a times, Mr. Speaker, you realize that even us, you need to ask yourself questions. We are saying cases, confirmed cases. Can't they affect people? What is their effect on society? What is their effect on other citizens? We tend to make it look like that is not that bad. But I believe that from the education that has been given, analysis that have been put out, discussions that have gone on, Mr. Speaker, they are as highly a risky group just as the 1,404. Mr. Speaker, because of the weight that we put on the cases, on the issues that come up, our people out there do not believe, Mr. Speaker. They do not believe. They don't agree with us. They think that it's not true. It's not a fact. And so you go to the lorry stations. I was happy to see TV3. One of their reporters at one of their lorry stations, he went to the extent of selling the mask. And some people never bought, they didn't care, they were there. The driver mate who was shouting the loudest and probably spilling all the saliva and all those things, jumped onto his car and continued shouting while others were sitting in the car without any mask. This goes to tell us that we have a lot more to do than even just testing and telling that this number has that confirmed or effective or ineffective or whatever cases that you have. The education needs to go down. The education needs to go down to let our people know that this is a real situation. This is a very, very serious situation that we need to take up. Get to the villages. I take my own village, Pusiga. I believe that when you go and it's a market day, you may not get up to, if you are lucky, you may get about 10 people who will be wearing masks, but they are all in the market. And so many people come in. That town, we have two border countries, that is Togo to the north and Burkina to the north, and then Togo to the east. And so we crisscross, and yet there is no wearing of mask because lack of education and lack of understanding. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about our educational system and we're talking about schools reopening. I will even not want to talk so much about the universities and then the senior secondary schools because they are. What about the very young ones? The little ones that are going to go back to school? How many of them will have that opportunity to be catered for properly so that they will be able to wear their mask always and also ensure hand washing and social distancing? These little children, they learn by association. Mostly, they learn by contacts. Some of them even go to the extent of backing one another. Mr. Speaker, in our local communities, the schools. You may go to a class and then find about the pupils in class 1. What are we doing to ensure that these children will be properly catered for? If we are going to run double track in the primary schools, do we have enough teachers to ensure that it takes place? Which is one of the common things that we are all battling with now. Do we have enough for all schools and for all peoples? Have we sensitized our communities such that all teachers, paid PTAs, will be able to take it up and ensure that all children going to school must have masks? Are we giving them the opportunity to allow parents to sew the mask for them? Mr. Speaker, there are so many things that we need to do in order that we stop this. We might be at a certain age, but what about the little ones who do not know? If we give them the opportunity to sew the mask, we shouldn't compel them to sew white mask, because the white mask cannot be managed by these little children. They should be given the opportunity to sew it, even if they decide in a particular school a particular color, so that it will help them. Mr. Speaker, another great problem that has come up as schools reopen is the issue of accommodation in our tertiary institutions. We have heard of the University of Ghana, where accommodation has become a problem because of trying to ensure that the COVID-19 rules are abided by. Perhaps a room that was containing 6 people might have to be contained by 3. What have we done to ensure that the other 3 that are leaving that accommodation would have a place? Because it's quite a dangerous situation and it's not good enough. Mr. Speaker, before I will end, I want us to take our own sitting in this chamber. Although we might think, but many a times we are in contact with each other. A whole lot of things. What are we doing to ensure that all these factors are catered for? Mr. Speaker, please let us ensure that education is taken up seriously. Let us let our people understand. I do not buy one particular measure that was being used some time ago, that when you go to any public place and people are not using masks, arrest them and take them to the police station and let them pay. From which account? Where are they going to get the money from? How many people can you arrest in the market? And how many people can pay? So, Mr. Speaker, I think that many others have got something to say. I wish rethink, rejuvenate, and ensure that the education goes down well, and that every public place, everywhere that education goes down, support is given, especially to the schools. Accommodation is looked at for the tertiary institutions to enable us fight this pandemic. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, yes, Honorable Mutala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute in the made by honorable colleague of mine, Honorable Akando, in the matter of a challenge that confronts all of us. And before I do that, perhaps on behalf of we that I shall attend, I want to take the opportunity to congratulate you for having been elected as the Right Honorable Speaker for this August House. Mr. Speaker, the challenge confronting us are enormous. It is no respecter of NDC or MPP. It's a challenge that confronts us every single day and every single minute. The extent to which people have lost their lives, kids have become, women have become widows as a result of this deadly pandemic that struck globally. Mr. Speaker, shocking as the figures may be, shocking as the number of those who have succumbed to this unfair pandemic may be, all those shocking figures we have may not be the true figures as is supposed to happen. Because we have stopped testing. Now, if you only need to test to be able to determine the number of people who are infected by this. Now, if you are not testing, how can you get accurate figures as to those who have been infected by this disease? And that is why it is worrying that in looking at these challenges, we must confront it with sincerity and honesty, particularly those of us who are tasked with a responsibility. I do agree that it is not the responsibility of only government. It is our collective responsibility as citizens and as people to ensure that the education my honorable colleague indicated about is done properly. However, the group of people who have the utmost responsibility to aid and facilitate the wider education we can do is the government, and that's that fact. So I think that we must take the education aspect very serious. Mr. Speaker, we have gotten a vaccine for COVID-19. The question I ask myself and I ask all of us, how prepared are we to administer the COVID vaccine? Because His Excellency the President has indicated that I guess in 2 months' time we may have the vaccine in Ghana. Have we prepared ourselves to do a pre-test of the vaccine? The vaccine was not developed in Africa. Neither was it developed in Ghana. And I really don't think that in developing this vaccine, we've witnessed the testing of the vaccine among people whose biological makeup may not be the same as ours. Must we just get the vaccine to administer on the people of this country because it's been administered somewhere? I think that the Minister of Health, and I'm happy the former Minister for Health is here, and the Ghana Health Service ought to take this serious. That we must not just start administering any vaccine on Ghanaians without having a pre-test of that vaccine. Because the consequences of administering it on the citizens of this country without a pre-test may be more dangerous and deadly than we anticipate or expect. So I would challenge, particularly the Ghana Health Service, to do more to ensure that we begin getting prepared and having a dose of it where people will be willing to be administered with the vaccine before the nationwide vaccination of the vaccine as is being gotten. Mr. Speaker, I have kids who are very young, and sometimes I have sleepless nights because schools have been asked to reopen. I bought this nose mask for my 2-year-old boy. It is extremely uncomfortable. You put it on him, within the next 2 minutes, he will remove it and throw it somewhere. That boy will have to go to school. Now, I may take the necessary measures to ensure that I don't get myself infected with this. Have we asked ourselves, the kids in the school, whether they'll be able to do that? And maybe perhaps these are people who have the luxury kids in private schools. Go to the public schools. The teachers themselves don't use masks. Maybe perhaps people would think that everybody must acquire. Some people cannot even afford to buy a mask, a nose mask, let alone put it on. That is why there is the needed responsibility and effort to be given that we provide this for the schools, particularly public schools. Mr. Speaker, I think that we need to discuss this issue without any political coloration. And when people raise critical questions, it ought not be looked as just doing criticisms of political expediency. It should be considered as a challenge confronting us. And when we criticize, the criticisms must be taken in good faith. Because once you identify that this is a challenge, because critical issues have been raised, I think that you'll be on the way of finding solution to those critical issues that are raised. But the moment critical issues are raised on a matter such as COVID, and the conclusion is that these issues are being raised because of political expediency, I think that we'll be losing the battle. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I want to sincerely thank the maker of the statement for reminding us once again that it is getting serious. And the earlier we act with expediency and sincerity, the better for our kids, the better for this country, and the better for generations yet unborn. With these few words, I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for West Central.
Thank you.
After that, we'll take the professionals.
Pardon?
After your contribution, we'll listen to the professionals.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this unique opportunity. Mr. Speaker, let me join my friends to congratulate you for your ascension to the third most important office in this country. And coming from this house, we know your competence, your abilities, and we are very confident that you deliver to the best of your abilities. Mr. Speaker, since 12 March 2020, Ghanaians have been on edge because of the first 2 cases of COVID that were discovered in this country. We have had situations where reports are given, very scary reports about infections, deaths, and etc., etc. Mr. Speaker, as we are speaking now, the seriousness attached to reporting about COVID raised to the level of the presidency has come down at a critical moment when COVID is rising again in this country. Mr. Speaker, I believe that we need to take it much more serious than the ebb it has now. Mr. Speaker, because of COVID, the world economy is suffering. Because of COVID, Ghana has attracted a lot of attention. The World Bank has donated about 100 million to Ghana. The IMF has donated more than 1 billion to Ghana. IFAD has donated about $20 million to Ghana. Mr. Speaker, our own Bank of Ghana donated close to 10 billion Ghana cedis to Ghana government to fight COVID. Mr. Speaker, this shows that the disease is not a child's play. The disease is about development, and the fact that we are unable to kill it completely in Ghana should still insist on our being careful and being committed to fighting it. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge you that when cabinet is fully constituted, we will want a full report about how much money has been received, how COVID is being fought, and where we have gotten up to now. This is important. We need to be very committed in how much time, resources we are devoting into fight. Mr. Speaker, the present situation in which reports are coming back to us that COVID again is on the rise is frightening. In my own region, we have heard that our 16 members of the region, citizens of the region, have been affected or infected by COVID. Mr. Speaker, we need to rise to the occasion. We need to be determined about it. If we are serious about COVID, of this country will come to normal. If we are not serious, Mr. Speaker, we are going to have a much more dangerous situation than we had in the previous months and year. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge you to make a pronouncement and to invite government as soon as possible to appear on this floor to make very concrete pronouncement as to what government is doing with what resources that are available to it. We don't expect any more resources than what has been given until there's a full account of what has happened and what has happened to the money and what government has done with it. Mr. Speaker, at this, Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I would like to end my contribution, but to urge my members here to take note that the Speaker's directive about a minister supersedes questioning here. The Speaker can direct a minister to come here and give reports as we are requesting. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Well, the former Minister for Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I identify with the sentiment that our colleagues on the other side have shared. I think it's important that we review what we have done in the fight against the deadly disease and to see where improvements can be made and to perhaps going forward do it better than we have been doing. But Mr. Speaker, it's important that we correct some inaccurate pieces of information that have been mentioned on the floor. It is not correct that the IMF and the World Bank have donated money to Ghana. It is completely incorrect. You can use the right instrument, you can file a question, the minister involved would come and answer, but it is inaccurate to state that the World Bank has donated money to Ghana. They haven't. The IMF has not donated any money to Ghana. These were facilities that were provided across for everybody. It is a loan for which we will have to repay. So to suggest on the floor of an important forum like this that it was a donation is not right, and I hope the records will correct that. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Doctor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to commend the Honorable Akanda for making all these important statements on COVID. Mr. Speaker, I remember on January 29, 2020, I made the maiden statement on COVID-19. And since then, a lot of water has gone under the bridge. And today, we still stand at the crossroads of COVID-19 becoming a much more serious disease than we thought. Indeed, we've been able to know that COVID-19 is not like the Ebola virus or the Bururu ulcer that we fought in the past. COVID-19 is quite different. As we speak now, we've got a mutation taking place. That is, the virus is changing its nature, such that drugs that were used to even fight it are not doing very, very well now. And so we have a case in Britain now, or cases in Britain now, and very high mortality, almost 2,000 deaths a day. And that is in Britain. Variants are now in South Africa also causing the same havoc. We know that it is now of a very high public health concern all over the world. Mr. Speaker, Ghana as a country We are really, the problem now we face is, what should we do now? And we've got to take the decisions. If you take paragraph 6 of the statement that was read out, you read that Ghana COVID-19 positivity rate is currently over 10%. And that is more than twice the 5% level organization recommends as a benchmark for reopening society, including academic institutions. If we take this parameter, it means that Ghana is not qualified to even open what? Our schools. So what do? Do we still continue as it used to be, closing down institutions, or we try to move towards normalcy? When I say normalcy, I'm talking of having our education, our recreational centers functioning, and of course, living normal lives under certain circumstances. Mr. Speaker, recreation is also very important because recreation is also related to what? The management of stress. And when you manage your stress well, you also have a good immunity. And so all those things are part of it. And so as a nation, we need to sit down and look at this aspect very well and see which way we are going and how we are going to manage it. But as concerned to me, now is the cost. Is the cost of testing for COVID-19. We reach a stage where people should be able to walk to any facility and check their COVID-19 status. And I must tell you that the rates at which they quote these figures, or the figure for testing for COVID-19, is very, very high. I went to one or two facilities, and I believe that the figure they quoted was between 400 Ghana cedis to 500 Ghana cedis. To 500 Ghana cedis. And that was not good enough for us in our management of the COVID-19. And at the same time, the issue of the vaccine, I think my colleague spoke a little bit on it. There are so many issues that are coming up. Are we using the attenuated virus? That is the weak viruses that we know we use it to inject to get immune response. Or is it true that there is actually a restructuring of our own DNA when these vaccines are introduced into us? We've got to look at all these aspects before actually, if we are serious getting this vaccine into this country and administering it on our citizens. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I speak as a member of the House, but with massive privilege of having worked with the task force and still continue to be a member of the COVID task force. Secondly, let me thank the maker of the statement and my colleagues for showing concern of the high numbers we are picking at the moment. It cuts across the country. A greater significant proportion is in Greater Accra, Ashanti, Western, and a few places Upper West, with numbers that are not as huge as we have in Accra. So Accra continues to be as same or similar to what we are confronted with from beginning of March 2020. Mr. Speaker, government has not closed any structure that was set up to do the battle with COVID. The command center is still operating. The COVID task force is still meeting. The procurement of COVID-related commodities is ongoing. And Mr. Speaker, privileged information, government has actually procured close to about 20 million face masks to be distributed to schools and children can have protection against COVID, together with their teachers. Training by Ghana Education Service for teachers and how to relate with these young people have all been done. They are working on trying to not keep them in school for very long hours, but still get maximum value for the little time they will stay in school. So a lot of things are ongoing. And I found the appropriate time when Cabinet has actually been properly set up. I believe government will send the Minister for Health, if it happens to be me again, to come here, to come and give a statement on what preparations government have done. Mr. Speaker, from March coming, there are a lot of things the President talked about, some of which almost all have been put in place. We have expanded our testing capacity to the extent that several places now are testing with gene expert machines and the appropriate PCR cartridges in this country. Veterinary services, even internally, are doing some tests now there. The traditional areas we started with, the cases here in Kumasi and Noguchi, are all testing. So these things are in place, and I believe we have quite a number of facilities that are now testing now. Mr. Speaker, as for infrastructure and the systems and the structures we put in place, they are all working. And I'm glad my colleagues have noticed that what is left still continues to be risk communication and how we can get all our citizens, our people, to come along with us to adhere to the COVID protocols. Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that we have been talking over and over and over again about what we should do, social distancing, not so many people in gatherings, use of sanitizers, hand washing with soap, and wearing of masks, you agree with me, and you all have seen what is happening in the country, across the country. A large number of us have stopped wearing masks in markets, wherever you go. Mr. Speaker, last 2 weeks, I had the privilege of visiting Fumbisi, and it was a market day. And I stood with my mouth open. I couldn't believe what was there. You couldn't count, you can easily count the number of masks in the market. The same thing that we have in Accra. And we have started talking again and beefing up the risk communication, said that people will be aware that the disease is still here with us and it hasn't gone nowhere. Because of the interventions government made, like my colleagues have said, we managed to curtail the spread and brought the numbers down to quite acceptable levels. Unfortunately, we are seeing upsurge, numbers going up, and we have started working seriously on this. As I even speak this morning, we have just opened one of the treatment centers in the heat of the battle. We rushed to put up at Pantai. That was done by Electricity Corporation, and we have started using that one just this week. Electricity Corporation has started handing over this morning to Ghana Health Service. We have started quarantining even those who are traveling from outside into the country again, so that those who be tested positive despite all the arrangements made are now being put into quarantine facilities. We started putting people in some hotels last week, and the ministry had to cough up money to try to find them what you would need to make them a bit comfortable where they are. We've started arranging with the Pentecost Convention Center again, try to open up capacity space for quarantining in case we continue to get very large numbers. We are bringing back and remobilizing our contact tracing brigade that will do massive contact tracing again if we continue to get numbers to become larger and larger. So, Mr. Speaker, what I can say is that we are working on these, and we have made adequate preparations for schools to reopen. Schools are being disinfected, some have been completed, and I believe all these things are things we started doing earlier, and it's a matter of rejuvenating and redoing and rethinking
those things that we managed to do to bring down the positivity rate or the active cases and the spread. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we haven't gone to sleep. Our government is on its heels trying to see what we can do together, and I believe that we will be able to contain the disease before it gets worse, uncomparable to other places where people are dying in droves. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members. Yes, honourable member.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to also contribute to the very important statement made by the Honourable Babina Minta Akando, MP for Juabasu constituency on COVID-19. Right, Honourable Speaker, I also join colleagues to congratulate you on your speakership. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said on the floor on this important topic on COVID-19. And we have traveled 2020 that COVID, we can say, is no more new. We know the interventions and we know what to do. Mr. Speaker, globally, as we are discussing this important topic, about 2 million people have died. If we come to Ghana, about 341 people have died. Mr. Speaker, what we need to do is to go beyond the numbers. I am disappointed sometimes when I hear the figures are not alarming, not many people are dying, we are safe. Mr. Speaker, even when one person dies from a very infectious disease like COVID, that death cannot be under. And looking at the 341 people that have died in Ghana, we all know the composition and the nature of these people. Family heads, breadwinners, and many more. Mr. Speaker, the Ghana Health Service has done well so far by trying to come out with updates. Mr. Speaker, but Ghana is limited because one update they have never given is the revenue expenditure aspect of COVID-19. Because we do not know how much revenue has come in and how much this government has spent on COVID-19. And Mr. Speaker, we cannot win the fight against COVID if our interventions are not right. If we do not invest rightly and be transparent with our investment on this infectious disease. And therefore the call to come out clearly on what has come into the coffers and what we have spent the money on and for what is very critical in winning the fight. Mr. Speaker, what is happening now globally is that a new strain has come up. In Ghana, we do not know whether what we are battling with is the old one or the new one. We need an answer for that. And what has contributed to the situation of cases going up is that it's like during the campaign season, the heat of it, the discussion, the interventions, and almost all the preventive protocols aspects were relaxed. And therefore the people also relaxed. The Veronica buckets, you don't have water. The soap you can't find. The sanitizers are for the rich now. So once we relaxed the protocols, then we are not surprised to see an increase in numbers of COVID in our health facilities. And we are not saying it. About 2 days ago, I heard the Director General of Ghana Health Service saying that in some of the treatment facilities, close to over 60% of the beds are occupied, meaning our health facilities are overstretched, and there's no debate about that. And this is the time we need to have transparent discussion on the management of COVID. We should leave partisanship. We should leave this one says from this party and this one comes to counter. That will not help us fight COVID-19. Other bodies like the Ghana Medical Association have come out also saying that there's a need to reinforce, the protocols on COVID-19, because they believe that now there's no regard for the protocols, and there's no, people say that in Ghana we are good at making laws, but the enforcement of those laws is our challenge. And that is the same thing we're facing in COVID-19, because we know what to do, but the enforcement of what to do is a challenge. And therefore, I join police action for public education for us to go back, to obey the protocols, to abide by them, and to ensure that we win the fight together. More PPEs should be sent to our health facilities. Now there's no minister, and I hope very soon we'll get a competent minister for health, whoever that minister may be. A very competent minister. I don't know the person because I'm not the one to nominate, but I am calling for a competent minister to take us out of this trouble. Right, Honorable Speaker, we need more PPEs because our facilities are overstretched. They have no PPEs, and we need to push more resources to our health facilities to be able to deliver and to be able to help in the fight. Mr. Speaker, schools have reopened, and I'm concluding. Schools have reopened, and many are asking whether we have prepared adequately to open schools. And that call is important.
Yes, Honorable Deputy.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, my colleague is making a very good contribution, but there was an aspect where he said that there is lack of transparency in expenditure regarding this COVID intervention. But Mr. Speaker, for the record, Mr. Speaker, please, Mr. Speaker, factually, we have had the Minister of Finance coming to this House to report on these. The Ministry of Health has also come here. So, Mr. Speaker, the terms of contribution under the item we are treating requires that we make brief comments and not get into the arena of debate. If you are being speculative by talking about lack of transparency, when we have reports in this house, unless your argument is to challenge the report and the figures, if you are not, then Mr. Speaker, I humbly pray that you order my colleague to get on the path of righteousness. That is, he should not continuously be arguing on that line because it's misleading and it's not anchored on fact. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member may continue.
Thank you, right?
Please.
Honourable
Speaker. Yes, wind up. We have an important item to take. So please, if you may conclude.
Thank you, right? In conclusion, and to emphasize and make myself more clear, I said the Director General of the Ghana Health Service and his colleague directors have been doing very well in giving updates. But what I find missing is updates on revenue and expenditure on COVID. And there's a need for us, all of us, to be transparent on the revenue and expenditure figures. So, Mr. Speaker, in concluding on the schools being reopened or about to be reopened, we don't think, or country, doubt whether our schools have been adequately prepared for reopening. And I'm saying that that call is right, and the government has to do very well to ensure that the necessary facilities, the necessary preparations are done at our schools before we reopen. And on the vaccine, what I'll say is that as a country, as Ghanaians, we should not be afraid. We shouldn't be quick to say the vaccines are bad or good. Let's rely on the necessary authorities to ensure that safe and efficacious vaccines are brought quickly to ensure that the fight against COVID-19 is achieved. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Honourable members, this brings us to the end of statements. We will now move to, well, it's also coming in the form of statement. Item 4, by leadership, on the determination of the formula for composition of membership of committees, parliamentary delegations, and other parliamentary groups and associations. Leadership, are you ready to make the statement?
Speaker, I've been in consultation with my colleague, the Honourable Member in charge of the NDC caucus in the House, in respect of the formula for the composition of membership of committees. Mr. Speaker, we have related to the prime committees to be formed, not parliamentary groups and associations for the time being. At appropriate time we shall deal with that. I will have been in consultation and we've arrived at some conclusion. Unfortunately, I've just been informed that my colleague has had to travel out to Tamale because of the transition of an uncle of his. But that indeed represents the state of affairs now. So I guess if it's agreeable, then I could present the paper that we have written and submit to the House. But first, preliminary discussions, I guess, is what they've written here as statements. It's really relating to the course of events, respect to the discussions that we have had relating to the determination of the formula for the composition of membership of committees in the House. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much.
Yes, the available leader.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, per the consultations of leadership as I'm aware, and looking at the numbers as we have now, I don't see the difficulty in the computation of the figures, given the 3 committees that we have to be, that have to be constituted as early as soon as possible. Especially the committee on selection, of which you are the chairman, is clear, which is going to be composed of 20 members. Given the numbers that we have, I think that committee has to be put in place, and the numbers either 137 or 138. If you have 20, it will be 10-10. After which, if leadership will have to go into conclave again and come up with the ratio which I know is conspicuous and known. 49.8 and 50.1 is 50-50 approximately to the nearest whole numbers. We learned this one when we were in elementary school. So we have no difficulty in computing that mathematics at all. The 2 other committees, Mr. Speaker, will be appointment committees, which is 26. And if it is 50, it will be 13-13. And the business committee, which is 20, will be 10-10. So, Mr. Speaker, in order not to waste time, we have to put emphasis on the committee on selection, of which is going to be 20 members. And I agree that when he says we have to do that one first. So without wasting more time, I think the committee of selection will have to be constituted. The formula, which is so conspicuous and known to everybody, will have no difficulty in computing at all. So with these few words, Mr. Speaker, I raise my case.
Honourable members, we now move to the commencement of public business. Item 5, laying of papers. A, by the leaders. 5A, Roman 1. Report of leadership on the formula for composition of membership of committees and the committee of selection. Yes, Honourable.
Speaker, as the Deputy Whip for the Speaker, as the Deputy Whip for the minority has indicated, we spoke about it and agreed on the formula, which then informed us on the composition of membership of the committees, in particular the committee on selection. So, Speaker, I would bow to that as agreed upon, and then so I'll submit that one and go to do B. A, Roman number 2, is not going to be attended to now because, Mr. Speaker, the composition of parliamentary delegations and parliamentary groups and associations hasn't arisen yet. This one affects 5A1, and I'll go on to do 5B.
Is 5B ready?
Yes, both A1 and B, they are both ready.
Honorable members, the report of leadership on the formula for composition of the membership of committees and the committee of selection duly presented to the House, and copies should be he did. Yes,
Mr. Speaker, I thought I had laid the report, but I guess some of the colleagues didn't get the import of what I did. So I may want to do so again.
Report of leadership on the formula for composition of membership of committees and the committees of selection.
Laid copies to be distributed to members. 5B.
Report of the Committee of Selection on the composition of the appointments and business committees.
The paper has accordingly been laid and is for distribution to honorable members. Yes, honorable member, yes.
Mr. Speaker, I guess there is a bit of a mix-up. I thought B related to the Committee on Selection. My attention has been drawn to the fact that it relates to appointments and business committee. So 5B is not ripe yet to be laid in the House. So let me accordingly withdraw what I did. So we're going to have to deal with just 5A. A, Roman number 1. A, Roman number 1.
You are saying 5B?
No, 5B.
5B.
The time has not arrived yet with respect to 5B. When I read, when I saw Committee on Selection, I thought it was a Committee on Selection report. Apparently it's captured under 5A1. So 5B should be considered undone.
Honorable members, the paper on 5B has accordingly been withdrawn. I don't know the pleasure of the House now. If the House is minded to continue, I may have to suspend sitting for some minutes.
Speaker, I believe we can quickly deal with items listed as 6 and 7 and conclude business for the day.
Thank you.
The 6 is procedural, but I know your difficulty and challenge. If you want to suspend for about 2-3 minutes to do what needs to be done, I guess we'll wait patiently for you. But if we can resist and indeed tolerate us for about 10 minutes, I believe we can bring this thing to a conclusion.
Honorable members, Honorable members, First Deputy Speaker to take the chair. Honorable members, in the meantime, we could proceed to item 6, which is a procedural motion. Leadership of the House.
Speaker, I beg to move that, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 81, which require that no motion shall be debated until at least 48 hours have elapsed between the date on which notice of the motion is given and the date on which the motion is moved. The motion for the adoption of the reports of leadership on the formula for the composition of membership committees, and in particular the committee of selection, may be moved today. I so move.
Any seconder?
Right, Honorable Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Motion moved and seconded. It's now for the consideration of the House. It being Honorable Member, yes.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, if I rise, very well.
No. I just wanted to hear him as to whether maybe it was on a point of order or something. This is a procedural motion. And so I put the question. All those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is accordingly adopted. We now move to item 7. Motion. Leadership of the House.
Speaker, I beg to move that this Honourable House adopts the report of the leadership on the formula for selection of membership of committees, and in particular on this occasion the committee of selection. Speaker, in so doing, I will submit the report of leadership on the formula for the composition of membership of the committees, and as I have indicated, the membership of the Committee on Selection. Mr. Speaker, respectfully, I want to move an amendment to the report that we have before us. The title reads, "The Report of Leadership and the Formula for the Composition of Membership Committees, Parliamentary Delegations and other parliamentary groups and associations, and the membership of the Committee of Selection." As I indicated, what we worked on is the Committee of Selection. So we use a formula that we agreed on to do that. So, Mr. Speaker, line 2 of the caption, we should delete the entire line 2. And line 3, we delete groups and associations and. Mr. Speaker, there are consequential matters in the body of the, for instance, like in paragraph 2, line 2, parliamentary groups, groupings and associations, we delete, and we delete also nationally and at the international level in paragraph 2. Speaker, 2.0, we delete in line 4 from delegations to the end of that first paragraph. And then on to 3. Paragraph 3, we delete groups, associations, and delegations. And rather in the numerical strength of the caucuses. The Speaker, so accordingly, I submit Mr. Speaker, I submit the report that we have, and just read the membership of the Committee on Selection to be composed as follows: the Right Honourable Alban Sumana Kingsford Backby as Chairman, the Honourable Chairman Zabunsu Alexander of Kabuna. Mr. Speaker, I think appropriately you should read Kwamina Afenyo Marking, Frank Anadompre, Lydia Suram Alassam, Habib Idrisu, Ambrose Derry, Bafuwa, Sarah Adjuasafu, Philip Basua, Brian Champon, and Haruna Idrisu, James Kluche, Aveji, Mohammed Mubrak Muntaka Alaji, Collins Dauda Alaji, Comfort Ganza, Mrs. Ebenezer Okletete Labi, Kesiel Atu Folsen, Nadi Ayi Ayamba, and Richard Echampa. Speaker, leadership accordingly recommends for the approval of the House the proposed formula based on a agreed ratio of 138 to 137 for the composition of membership of committees. And again, we should delete parliamentary delegations and other parliamentary groups and associations, and membership of the Committee on Selection. Speaker, leadership further recommends that membership of the Committee on Selection as composed be approved by the House. Respectfully submitted.
Yes, Honourable Deputy Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion that the House approve the report of the leadership and the formula for the composition of membership of the committees and the membership of the Committee of Selection. Mr. Speaker, I just want to draw the attention of the House to the ratio determined by the report on page 2, and membership of 8th Parliament. Mr. Speaker,
most of the time when we are deriving ratios, we use the numbers and try as much as possible to make it more simpler and more readable. If you use a ratio of 138 to 137, to make it more easier for people to understand, you need to break it down in order for members to clearly appreciate what you want to communicate. In the 7th Parliament, where we had a ratio of around 61% and 39% for MPP and NDC respectively, it was agreed that we round it off to 60-40. We did not use the numbers of the membership by 169 is to 106. We didn't use that. We broke it down to make it more simpler, 60-40. So in this case, Mr. Speaker, if you is down, you'll not be talking about 138 is to 137. 50.10 is to 49.998. So to run it down and up, the ratio will then read 50-50. So I want that to be clarified in the report. We want to be clarified in the report. So instead of reading 138 is to 137, we just do the ratio of 50-50. Because that is what I want to draw the attention of the leadership to, so that it make it more simpler. In the committees where we have an even number, it will be easier to share 50-50. But Mr. Speaker, committees where we have odd number, for instance, finance committee where we 25. Mr. Speaker, it means that we cannot have 12 and a half and 12 and a half. Mr. Speaker, I want to propose, because it's 50-50. So not to have 12 and a half and 12 and a half. For the first 2 years, Mr. Speaker, the MPP will have 13 and we will have 12 members. Then in the 3rd and 4th year, we will take the 13 and they take 12. Mr. Speaker, because that's the simple thing we should do. Mr. Speaker, that is what we should do, because it is 50-50. They cannot take 13 for 4 years and we take 12 for 4 years. No, it won't happen. So, Mr. Speaker, that's my proposal, and I want everybody to support that proposal so that it's part of this before we approve this report. Yes. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah.
Honourable members, the report of the honourable leader. Do you want to respond?
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, what the deputy leader for the minority caucus is saying on the face value makes some sense, but every ratio is predicated on the actual numbers. So it is 138 divided by 275 times whatever. That is it. When you do that, you know the actuals. Mr. Speaker, I don't know why he's trying to circumvent whatever. So it should not make any proposals that cannot be grounded in the rules. The rules are clear. The ratio is based on actual numbers. We do approximations, but where there is doubt, you relate to the actual numbers. As simple as that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Why approximations when the actual numbers exist?
Mr. Speaker, I think that the leader of the MPP side has completely understood what I said. Mr. Speaker, if you want to name the leader of the majority group, you can give it to him. But he is not the majority leader, Mr. Speaker. He is not. is the leader of the majority group or the leader of government business. So you should accept that one. You are the leader of government business. Are you not the leader of government business? He is the leader of government business. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm saying that yes, the numbers are there, 138, 137. But to make it simpler for people to appreciate what you want to communicate, that is why we use ratios. Ratios are most of the time 2:1 or maximum 2 figures. What do you go into? So if we have, let's say, 1,020 from your side and 1,030 from our side, should we say 1,200 is to 1,300? No, we will not say that. So the simple thing is to do the ratio and approximate it. That is why I'm saying that by approximation, the ratio is 50-50. So he should not try to go his way, his usual way of doing business. He should change his way of doing business this time around. It's 50-50.
Honourable members, the report, as I see it, is signed by both leaders. I'm sure if there were a simpler way, the leaders would have certainly come to that conclusion. So I'll put the question. Honourable Chief Whip, Deputy Whip, after your leader has spoken, what more do you want to add?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just needed some clarity and your guidance before we move in. Mr. Speaker, going through the other paper, there were a number of motions, one of which was, yes, Mr. Speaker, I could see the leader signaling to me that those motions are not going to be taken today. I just wanted confirmation for us to be specific so that it will not be presumed that once Article 1 or Order 17151 is complied with, because if you take the report that we are adopting, that is on Order 154, composition of the Committee of Selection. But the standing orders in Order 151 says that at the first meeting of every session of Parliament, there shall be appointed a committee of selection. So this work that we are doing now is predicated on Order 151. However, when you go in, we have Order 154. So my question is, if the formula for the composition which was determined and which we are debating, which is different from the composition of the committee of selection, will be taken at another time, then I have no difficulty. Motion.
Oh, you wanted my clarification from him. I think that is your request.
So today is just the committee of selection. I'll ask for the formula for sharing the delegate later. Precisely.
No, it's important.
Honourable members, there is a report before the House. The report is to approve the formula for the composition of members' committee of selection. That is all the matter before the House now. So I'll put the question. All in favour of the House adopting the report, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The report signed by the two leaders is adopted by the House. Yes, honourable leaders, any indication, please?
Speaker, I believe we can take an adjournment today because, as I indicated earlier, items listed as 8, 9, 10, 11 will not be taken today. So we'll end here, and I guess when we adjourn, perhaps leadership could meet and see the way forward in respect of those two committees that we need to constitute as early as possible.
Yes.
Have you moved?
Mr. Speaker, it's already past 2. We have no difficulty with what the leader is saying. So we are in your hands.
Very well. But I want to find out, are we sticking to the agreement reached with Mr. Speaker earlier on this morning, adjourning to 14 hours?
Yes.
On Tuesday? Very well. Enough members. The House is accordingly adjourned to Tuesday, the 19th of January at 14 hours in the afternoon. 14 hours, that is 2 p. Tuesday, 19th of January. Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, I noticed that you have hit it, but just to indicate to members that when we have to adjourn, if the Speaker is not up, the rest of us will have to sit down. Otherwise, it will appear you want to hurry the Speaker out. That is the practice. Let's wait until the Speaker rises. Then the rest of us would rise with him. When the Speaker has not risen, we don't rise. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The House is accordingly adjourned to Tuesday, 2 p.m.